It is your Classic Metal Show right here on the ClassicMetalShow.com. That is our neighbors to the north, Anvil, with their latest release, Legal at Last, and that one's called Nabbed in Nebraska. What these guys are doing out in Nebraska, I have no idea, but they'll tour anywhere. And on the phone, we have a legendary vocalist and guitarist from Anvil, Lips. Welcome to the Classic Metal Show again.
Great. Thanks to be here. Great to be here. Awesome.
Well, Lips, you have been around a long time. You guys, you're no stranger to the metal world, and people know Anvil because, you got a long legacy, and I think one of the things that relaunched you and put you back on the map, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's already been over 10 years since your little documentary came out.
Yep, it's about 12 and a half years now.
Yeah, I can't believe that. And, I remember when that came out, it was making a lot of news, whether you read like Brave Words or Blabbermouth or whatnot. And there was a lot of discussion about the documentary that you guys did because you guys were so open and honest. And it almost made people feel bad because you guys have had a tough road trying to remain relevant and stay active in the music world.
And so have dozens and dozens of other bands.
Yeah, but I think you guys documented.
It's not easy. It's not easy for anybody.
Yeah, that's
it's no one makes it overnight, and if they do, it doesn't last.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But then again, the style of metal, which I like, is called classic metal, which thus the name of the show, the Classic Metal Show. The ones that stand out and are still doing it strong, such as yourself, are the guys who never gave up.
Yeah.
But,
and the ones that created a history, you got to have a history.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
It means everything. And at the end of the day, but today, I don't know how you would go about making a history. It's a completely different business model. So doing what I did 40 years ago, I don't think it's possible to be done today.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Well, I agree, and that's kind of where I was going. Is that there really is no such thing as any newer or upcoming bands that will have a legacy. I don't believe, and we've had a discussion on the Classic Metal Show many times that when the old timers go away. And a lot of them are calling it a day, be it Kiss and, Ozzy keeps threatening to go away and Black Sabbath supposedly called it a day and, Motley Crue supposedly called it a day until this big reunion. Once those guys are gone, the question is for you, Lips, is who is an arena size hard rock and metal act?
There won't be. That will become something of the past. There's no such thing. And there is no infrastructure to create such a thing again. So how are you ever going to, once this era ends, it's over. That's it.
I agree. I completely agree. And it's very sad to see that.
Name one band, not one, that are in their 20s filling arenas.
It's not happening.
No, so it's not like 35, 40 years ago, like when Iron Maiden started to make it and Judas Priest, they were filling arenas and they were in their 20s.
Yep, I agree.
It doesn't exist today. It's gone.
Yep. Well, Lips, you've been around for 40 plus years and you're still making music, obviously, with this new release, Legal at Last. Right. For whatever reason, bands of your ilk still want to record and make records, even though there really is not a record business anymore. So what drives you to make a whole new album?
Oh, I mean, you're right. There's no real record business and there is no money in royalties. But there is money and to make a living in playing live and selling merchandise.
Yeah, absolutely.
What the music has become is it's become your advertising jingle to sell T-shirts.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, when you
beyond that, there is no business. Streaming is now the be all end all. The only physical sales are usually vinyl, and people are buying vinyl more out of collecting it,
and
rather than what they're using to listen to it with. To listen to it, you're better off using a CD, making files in your computer, or downloading it.
Yep.
And then you've got the highest quality audio. But let's face it, vinyl is not the finest audio quality. They didn't create CD and digital sound for no reason.
That's absolutely true.
There's a lot of guys that want to argue that fact. Go ahead. Don't argue with me. Argue with the scientists that figured out how to get 20 to 20,000 hertz perfect, and then tell me that vinyl does that, and I'd say no, it does not, and that's scientific, and that's proof, and that's the end of it. So whatever you want to think, or whatever you want to say, or whatever your opinion is, it's only an opinion. It's not based on anything but opinion rather than facts. Frequency response is a frequency response, and numbers don't lie.
Absolutely. Well, what drives you to make a full CD? Because a lot of bands these days, they're not.
I want to go tour. I want to go make a living. I want to go have fun. What other reason could you ever have for doing it?
Well, I agree. My point is that a lot of bands have figured out a way to, instead of doing an entire CD, they'll release maybe one or two singles at a time, like maybe over a year's time, rather than release the whole disc all at once. And maybe at the end of the year, you'll have the whole disc. So they sort of like piecemeal it out.
Yeah, I can see the relevance in that. I can see the logic in it. Makes a certain amount of sense. It stretches out the interest in the band, because like I'm talking about in the song Food for the Vulture, I was in a certain sense talking about how the music gets absorbed and devoured instantly, and in a week it's gone.
Right.
And if you can put out a song at a time, you're going to get weeks at a time for each release. But you put out a whole CD and it will be devoured in a week. And it's over. The excitement is over. It's all done. That's it.
I agree. I completely agree. Now,
and that's why bands are doing that, and that is something that I actually agree with, but I can't get anybody on board. So we're doing it the old-fashioned way, and I expect that Legal at Last will be devoured within a week or two, absorbed into the public, and then the interest goes away, and then it's on to the next piece of meat, for the public.
Sure.
And that's just the way it is.
That's right. Well, when it comes to recording these days, obviously, if you look back 30 years, it certainly doesn't take the budget that it used to go into a big recording studio and use 2-inch tape and all that kind of other stuff. So how is your budgetary, where does the budgetary, means come from for you guys to record? Are you guys self-funded these days?
No, we're a brand name. Getting an advance from a label is generally how we've been able to do it, and that's been no problem. We did use Pledge for last couple of albums, but they went and they ripped off a whole bunch of bands and went out of business and ran with the money. So that doesn't seem like such a good idea anymore.
Right.
It certainly worked amazing. And in fact, we were We were in the black before the album came out, the last couple albums. I mean, I guess I could say the same thing about this one, but it's a little bit different in the level that I'm not holding cash, that I just, you know. But having said that, it's really tough. You break even. You know, you're not really. It's like I said, you're creating music to sort of boost your business for selling merchandise and to get yourself hired to play live. Ultimately, that's where you're making your money from. So, you know, thank goodness that recording doesn't cost an arm and a leg like it used to, because there is no funding for it. Where are you going to get the money from? You can't barely generate enough sales. I mean, these days, like the label that I'm signed to, I would imagine that they're going to do okay, because there's going to be a certain amount of CDs sold, but there's going to be a lot of vinyl sold. And they're really going all out. They've got a number of different versions of the album coming out in different colors of vinyl. So they're not being foolish. They know what they have to do in order to sell product. So they'll recoup the money that they gave us to record it. And of course, for us, we're going to sell thousands of T-shirts.
Right.
And I'm going to make a living, and I got hundreds and hundreds of shows to do this year, so no problem, you know, right. On that level. So it all works out. But you know, for a lot of other bands, the bands that aren't a brand name, this what I'm talking about is a dream. I mean, that's pretty much a dream to make that come true. To make what I'm saying come true, man, is that tough.
Yeah.
I feel very, very fortunate of what's happened with my career. Although you know, some would say, "Hey, man, that you guys have been through hell." Well, I don't think I've been through hell like what's going through a lot of bands are going through today. So I'm very grateful for what I have and what I've got going. So that's how I feel about it. You know, and I'm having a great time, and it's a great way to retire from hard physical labor, like doing deliveries for a catering company. I don't have to do that anymore, and I haven't had to do it for the last 13 years. So I think I'm doing very well, and I'm a very, very content and happy individual, I'm glad to say.
Well, and here I was looking forward maybe to having some shepherd's pie.
Or meatballs.
Exactly. Well, where would you say your largest fan base in the world is, Lips? What area of the country is it? European market? Is it the U.S.?
Oh, European market, without any doubt. It always has been. And in fact, that's where a record deal exists. That's where it has existed all along. That's been the mainstay for the band for 40 years. I've virtually never had record deals in America. My first record deal was here in Canada, and it only was here for the first 3 years. But after that point, all the financing and major part of the expenses were always covered by the European market, and it still stands in that way to this day.
Right. Well, we're early in the year, so you said that you have a bunch of shows coming up. So what's on the touring schedule? Is it mostly overseas?
Yeah, well, we've got about 53 shows coming up starting February 26th, going through to May 2nd. And once we get back to Canada in the beginning of May, probably we're going to take a week off and then begin our Canadian leg of the tour, which would probably be about, I don't know, maybe 20 to 25 shows. That'll probably take us into about August, where we're going to start. I guess we're going to start writing some songs for the next album, take some time off and do that. And then in September, we're going to begin touring in the USA. And I don't know how large or how long that tour will be, but it certainly is going to be somewhere in around 30 to 50 dates. So we got lots of work to do in that regard, which will bring us in around to November, December. And we're going back to Japan. And I'm hoping that there's going to be other stuff connected to that, like Australia and the rest of Asia. We're hoping for possibly another visit to China. And then, of course, after that's all done, we're going to come back and write some more and then get ready to go record another record.
Very cool. Wow. Looks like you already got your whole year planned out.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's like that every year. That's what's been going on. It just hasn't stopped.
Right. Right. Very good.
You got a really good momentum, and that's everything. That's everything. This is the pinnacle of my career. This is what I would have cite as I finally made it. And what I mean by making it, I'm always working and I've got a momentum going. That's making it.
Yep.
Making millions of dollars, no one's doing that. So I'm not looking at it from that perspective. I'm making a living, and that's good enough for me.
Yeah.
And it's better than doing deliveries, so it's all good, man.
Sure, absolutely. Well, let's talk about this new CD, Legal at Last. I did read the press release on this that, you were liking it to the legalization of marijuana, but it has a different meaning for you. So give us
quite interesting, because what started out as a very, very simple thing about talking about the Canadian government legalizing marijuana. The legalization of marijuana is actually a very deep subject. Why was it illegal to begin with? You got to ask that question before you can go on and say, well, it's legal now. Why was it illegal to begin with? Well, that's a really very deep question, because it certainly wasn't made illegal because it's bad for you. Okay. Anybody who is delusional enough to believe that has got to be they got to be more stoned than on pot. Okay. Money. And what does money have to do with it? Well, it has a lot to do with it, in the sense that marijuana would have stunted the cotton industry, the forestry industry, or pulp and paper. It would have had an effect on construction in the sense that we wouldn't have needed to cut trees down. And these are all the different connections that it has all through the album, okay, in the subject matter that I've talked about, including chemtrails, plastic in paradise, gasoline. These are all interconnected topics. Although they're separate songs and they talk about the effects of those separate songs, marijuana is an actual tie that ties it all together, because the realistic and truth, we depleted our world and ecology of CBD chemicals that are in hemp. Hemp could have been used, or hemp has been used and is being used as a cure for cancer. Why? Because we've depleted our complete ecosystem of it. You're not finding it. It's not in our food chain. It's not in the air. It's not in the water. And therefore, we have made ourselves a lot more prone to getting cancer. When you introduce the chemicals into our bodies with the oils that they have, these specific purified versions of marijuana without the THC, without the stuff that gets you stoned, they're finding it, shrinks your the tumors and clears up all kinds of cancer. Well, if these things weren't depleted in our whole ecosystem, maybe we wouldn't have got the cancer to begin with. Okay, that's just the medical aspect. Now, pulp and paper, all the trees and the forests that we knocked down to make paper wouldn't have been knocked down. That means that there would be a lot more oxygen in our atmosphere. That has a direct effect on what we have called global warming. Whether we want to call it a conspiracy theory or a money-making aspect, call it whatever you want, it's going on. Whether we want to admit to it going on, it's going on. Okay, the climate change is going on all over the world. There's all kinds of catastrophes and all kinds of shit going on, whether people want to admit to it or not. That's up to you. I'm just discussing it here. The other aspect, chemtrails. Well, chemtrails are the emitting of alumina, a chemical that they put in the airplane and spray it into the air. And the effect that that's supposed to have, it's supposed to deflect sunlight, which is supposed to slow down the process of global warming. It deflects sunlight. Well, we wouldn't be doing that if we didn't cut all the trees down and wreck our environment by not using marijuana, okay? Instead of whatever. The same thing about fossil fuels. We didn't need to use fossil fuels. You could actually transpose hemp into diesel fuel. So there's another aspect of marijuana that has been pushed aside. So that as you can see what I'm saying, whether I did it on purpose or whether I did it by accident or it just happens to be a coincidence, everything is somehow tied together with the concept of legal at last. Canada is one of the first places in the entire world that has recognized these things and has made the stuff legal. Now, my point and why I chose to have an angel on the front and a devil on the back is because it's for better or worse. Okay? We have to be responsible with the things that we do, whether it's drinking, whether it's smoking pot. I don't care what you do for a vice. It's a vice. Do we need it? Well, that's questionable. I don't think so. But that's a whole other topic for another discussion. But the point of what I was trying to make, it's for better or worse. It's the devil and it's the angel. And it's up to us as the human race what we're going to do with that. So there's a lot of good and probably a lot more good than there is bad. And I think in the overall scheme of things and the whole picture of things, it's definitely much more for the better. The other aspect is making material, particularly garments for garments. We all know that there's hemp was some of the very first jeans that people wore were made out of hemp. But we chose to make it out of cotton. Cotton has a huge impact on our environment, whether we want to believe that or not. But these are the reasons that it became illegal to begin with. Some of the huge impact on the economic and business world if marijuana had been legalized in the 20s and 30s, and it was shut down, and that's why they made it illegal. Not because most people didn't even know that it got you stoned. that they found out afterwards. So it didn't really come into style or come really known until the 60s when the hippies started smoking it. But the real truth is mountain men 7,000 years ago were smoking it.
Yeah.
They found guys preserved in the ice with marijuana pouches on them, but it was used to help to help cope with high altitudes. So its medicinal purposes and other purposes have been known for thousands of years. So, I mean, it's actually a very interesting subject, and it's somehow made its way throughout the album, whether I did it on purpose or by accident. But that's just the way it is. It's quite deep. The other aspect, it's our 18th album, which is a magic number. 18 is coming of age for in many places around. It's either becoming legal of age for voting, sexual relations, and some people have even been if I found it very comical. They're saying that the cover depicts an underage angel, and that now she's finally legal, and that means we can fuck her. God only knows where people's heads are at, but wow. When I heard that one, I went, okay.
Well, it is whatever you want to make it out to be, I guess.
Yeah, well, that's like the truth, right? The truth is whatever you want to believe, and that's pretty fucking scary too, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. Well, I guess that's what they call free will, huh?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know, man. It's a crazy world out there.
Yes, it is. Well, is there any song or anything in particular about this new release that, stands out for you? I know you gave us a whole scenario of how it kind of is interwoven with the whole legalization of marijuana, but is there something about this new disc that you'd like to point out to the fans that maybe they should pay close attention to?
The diversity. It's a massive, diverse album. This particularly different aspects of what metal is. It's like all the different facets. Each song is its own unique little thing. It's not a one feel album. It's extremely diverse in keys and pitch, in tempos, subject matter. It's actually pretty remarkable, really. Yet it's all Anvil. You're going to find flavors of Black Sabbath. You're going to find flavors of Deep Purple. You're going to find flavors of, I don't know, Ted Nugent. There's all kinds of little flavors from all over the era of rock and metal in this album. It's not one dimensional. It's very, very multi-dimensional. So it's quite unique.
Yep.
Quite interesting.
Well, after 40 plus years in the business and being exposed to so many contemporaries of yours, I guess it'd be hard to ignore little bits of influences.
That's right, and I use them.
I summarize them. Why not?
Well, it's part of what we all do as musicians. Is we are what we consume. And being born in 1956, I kind of paralleled electric guitar. So my influences are, as long as there's been electric guitar, that's what I got influenced by. So it's everything from Chuck Berry to Slayer.
Well, that's not such a bad thing.
No, it's not. So the variance and the in what I'm doing is vast. It's everything and anything that has happened that's had electric guitar in it. There's little bits and pieces of it all through the record. So it's kind of really cool in that regard. It's not like, okay, we're going to play all stuff that sounds like Slayer. It's not like that. You know what I mean? Or we're going to play all stuff that sounds like Black Sabbath. It's not like that either.
Right.
but there are little elements that you go, oh, cool, that reminds me of this, and this reminds me of that, and little bits and flavors and tastes of various things throughout the eras. And that's a great thing about this album that I think will give it the longevity at the end of the day, because ultimately that's what I really strive to create is something that has longevity, something that people will be able to listen to 20 years from now.
Right.
Well, for a number of different reasons, subject matter as well as music. You want the relevant, up-to-date ideas to be expressed so that people will be able to time capsule, that it acts sort of like a time capsule, that you get a glimpse of what once was. In the same sense that when I think about Black Sabbath's second album and I think about the song War Pigs, I understand, or gives me the essence of the war in Vietnam. And it gives that era. It's a piece of that era. It's time capsule. Electric Funeral. That's a time capsule type of album, and that's why it stands the test of time. That's why we're sitting here talking about Black Sabbath's second album. It's an incredibly relevant album for 50 years.
Right.
And ultimately, that's what you're really trying to do. You're trying to make something that will last. And let's face it, music and art are the only things that humanity ever makes that lasts.
Yep.
Everything else is disposable, including each other and our relationships.
I agree. Well, let me ask you, Lips, a lot of bands put out new music, new material, and then they go out and tour, but it's rare when a band will actually play something off the new album during their live show, especially legacy bands who've been around a long time, because, the fans come out and they want to hear the most popular songs, and, you only have so much time on stage. And so it's just like, well, should we play metal on metal, or should we play something new from the new record,
Well, all that's been happening for Anvil is our set keeps getting longer. We play approximately 3 new songs after every new album in our set. You don't want to do more and you don't want to do less. You've got to do something new. You have to.
Yeah.
And if you're not, just being lazy.
Sure.
And you can't be lazy, man. You got to be on top of it. You got to give the people everything that you possibly can. And it's certainly giving them a taste of something new is really important. Then you haven't got a future. Without doing that, you've got no future. So we're all trying to work on our future. Otherwise, we haven't got one.
Exactly. All right, Lips. Well, I appreciate you taking some time to talk to us here about the new release, which is called Legal at Last. And where can people find out about Anvil? I'm sure you guys got websites and social media and all that fun stuff. So where's the central location people could go find you?
Oh, definitely, Facebook. Although I'm not there personally anymore. I was, and I got too sick of it, but we have an Anvil site that everybody generally hears from us there. It's kind of a central location. I found it kind of redundant having an actual website. Everything you need to know you're going to find on there, including any merchandise you want to buy. There's click and it takes you there. So there is an independent one. One of our fans has been running since 1996 and it's out there. You could probably find it if you Google Anvil. It'll come up as one of the pages that you can go check. But it's like I said, it's almost redundant to what's on Facebook, because everything that's on that is on Facebook. So that's why I'm saying might as well just go to Facebook.
Right, I gotcha. All right, Lips. Well, I appreciate you taking some time. Go check out the new release here from Anvil called Legal at Last. And as Lips said, they're going to be busy this year, going out there doing a lot of live shows. So if they're coming to a town near you, no matter where you are in the world, go out there and check them out and pick up the new disc while you're at it. So anything else, Lips?
No, I think that we're good to go, man.
All right. Well, congratulations on the new release, and good luck with all the touring and road work this year. And glad to know that music is a way that you're able to support yourself and make money and all that good stuff, because it's a tough gig out there today.
Yeah, it is, and it's all good, man. I got nothing to complain about. I got the best life you can ever possibly have. I'm no complaints at all.
Well, perfect. That's always good to hear. Well, Lips, as a tradition here on the Classic Metal Show, we always let the artist pick a song from the new release and maybe tell us a quick story about it.
Well, you already listened to Nebraska, didn't you?
We did.
Well, that had a great story. That's coming from Colorado into Nebraska, and we got busted. But it's not that major of a bust, because they decriminalized marijuana in Nebraska, so all you get is a fine, like a parking ticket.
Right.
So, and in parking infraction, I got a weed infraction.
Exactly.
I don't know. Let's see. What song can we pick to play? Have you played the title track?
I have not.
Oh, why don't you play the title track?
Okay. All right. Well, I think that sums it up for you. So go check it out. Again, it's Anvil, Legal at Last, and here is the title track exclusively here on your Classic Metal Show.